Good morning. Welcome back to our wonderful Wednesday. Let's make it even more wonderful with our learnings and our takeaways. So, without further ado, let's manifest, let's add power to our dreams. Let's start. Welcome back. Let's start our morning. So, yesterday we've been talking about scanners for a long time. And yesterday we realized that scanners keep shifting their jobs or their businesses or professions from one to another. Many a times completing, many a times incomplete patterns are repeated. Why is that happening? Because there's one simple fact: the scanners just want to have fun. People who want to have fun are different from people who are ambitious. When you're ambitious, your goal is success in whatever way your culture defines that word. You stick with something through thick and thin because your eye is on money or prestige or rewards. For most of us, those are the recognized symbols of success. If you get them, everyone admires you. You're a winner. But a scanner's goal is something most people in our culture don't understand. And scanners don't usually understand it either. If you keep changing goals, and or if you're like Harry and Edith and you walk out the door just when you've attained success, we all assume you have something wrong with you. It's incomprehensible that you'd value something more than success. But that's exactly what scanners do. If you ask them why they walked away from something they were passionately interested in, worked hard at, they'll tell you they lost interest in it. To everyone around them, that doesn't make any sense. Who cares? Others ask. Do you have to be entertained all the time? Isn't it time to grow up? And scanners don't know how to answer. They just know they can't do boring things. And they know that they really have no choice. It is as though they're creatures in a science fiction story who fly on a beam of energy and then they move off the beam, they sicken and they fall on the ground. If they get back to the beam, the energy comes back and they fly again. For scanners, that energy beam is almost always some kind of learning, which often involves problem solving and inventing, creating and thinking, or some other variation. What it feels like to a scanner, which is fun. Now, scanners love to learn more than they love to know. That's why Harry wants to experience a new life. Edith wants to rescue a failing business. So Harry will never be a multimillionaire real estate mogul, and Edith will never own a hugely successful store. They couldn't care less. They pay a high price for that attitude in a culture that focuses on success. So yesterday we heard about two stories, Edith's and Harry's, and we realized that on the peak of their careers, they've like dropped it. They're like, no, it's just served its purpose. I need to move on into something which attracts me more. Now today, let's hear a little bit from what Bella has written down. Bella says, I have a cousin who's totally absorbed in becoming wealthy. I've never seen such focus in my life. When he's looking into some new way to do it, the stock market or import export or whatever, he sometimes pulls me into help with some new strategy he doesn't understand. And I'm as interested as he is. But once I get it, I'm finished and he stays interested. He might actually make a lot more money one of these days. My mom keeps saying, "Why don't you do that? You're smarter than him." She's disappointed I don't become a big success. But all I can think of is how miserable I'd be if I did what he does. I just don't care about the money. My family says I'm not ambitious. They think I'm neurotic, which means I am a loser. And when it comes to scanners, why do I assume that these families have made a mistake? How do I know that scanners are different from people who reject success for emotional reasons? I know because when you reject what you really want, everything else feels like a poor substitute. But when scanners reject something, they replace it with something they love much more. For example, Thomas. He says, "I love to search for new things to explore. I think I might find or out something that maybe no one else knows, something they need. That means I'm credible, relevant, needed, and have a reason for being here." Elsie says, "The fascination I have with the unknown and the physical exploration of the unknown is so satisfying. That is why I do improvisational dance. And the openness of improvisation is pure heaven." So very nicely, these people are just keeping on looking for something more exciting and they're moving on. Now, what do serial specialists want? What is it that Harry and Edith love most, more than money or prestige or success? What is it that's so interesting for them that supersedes all of these things which humans need, society needs? So now let's understand. I want to be Walter Mitty. Harry, the real estate whiz, who went on to become a high school teacher and a writer, said those words. He laughed, but he meant what he said. Walter Mitty is a character in a short story by James Thurber. He's a henpecked husband who continually daydreams of being a daring surgeon, a heroic pilot, and dashing naval commander. Harry knew the lines by heart. "Throw on the power lights, rev her up to 8,500. We are going through," he said with great drama. We smiled and I asked, "You want a daredevil life?" "No, an interesting one." "I do want a daredevil life," says Edith, which she was almost surprised at her own words. After some discussions, two interesting patterns emerged. Harry loved the experience of living different lives, understanding the inside of someone else's world through personal experience. Edith loved the excitement and intensity of taking on near disasters and making them come out right. And if Harry is a sociologist, Edith's a fireman. They know what they love, but they have a problem, and it's a serious one. They are all scanners, and scanners worry about in one context or another. You can't keep changing careers and build anything else apart from any kind of financial security. And of course, you'll never be considered expert in anything because you'll be a jack of all trades. I intend to lead a life that interests me and nothing else, if I possibly can. Harry said, "But one of these days, I'm going to need more than great memories. Is there any way to turn this all into something, or will I have to settle down someday? I can't build a reputation or retirement funds if I keep this up. I could wind up nowhere. Just like my family predicts." Edith was worried too. You could never get financial security if you keep starting over and over again. So I told them about serial specialists who found a way to climb the ladder to success without even giving up being scanners. Some had what I call umbrella careers. Under one umbrella career, many different interests exist. So one of them, Gloria, is a small business consultant. She loves rescuing businesses like Edith does, and she's made a profession out of putting them back on their feet. She has put on an online magazine for one-person businesses and runs entrepreneur workshops for small-time operators all over the world, from Colorado to Siberia. But Gloria always had trouble sticking with one thing. "I love clothes and I wanted to be a fashion designer," she says. "I loved designing clothes and learned the manufacturing process, but then I lost interest. So I opened a small shop and I really enjoyed it. But it was the same thing every day. I helped my brother start a small auto repair shop for antique cars, and I found I was really interested in that too. After a while, I realized that what I was interested in was business itself. Now I help small businesses in every field from doll hospitals to talent agencies. It never gets to be routine, and that's what I love most. Another scanner with an umbrella career is one of my favorite writers, Tracy Kidder. I always talk about Kidder when I'm describing sequential scanners in my workshops and telephone classes. I first mentioned him in 1994 in my book, I Could Do Anything If I Only Knew What It Was, in which I coined the word scanners. Kidder is a perfect example of someone who, like Harry, is happiest when he can buy himself in one subject in one environment and a number of years. When he understands it to his satisfaction, he writes a book about it. Every book is about a complete different world. His first book, The Soul of a New Machine, is about the development of the first home computer. In his second book, House, about the design and construction of a private home. He spent almost every day for over 4 years with the family, their architect, and their builders, capturing a world no one had written about. I was like a fly on. I was like a fly on the wall, he said at a book reading. The builders said they wished I'd wear a bell so they'd know when I was overhearing the discussions. Kidder went on to write many books, and everyone took him inside an entirely new and different environment. Yet he had one career only, and every book he writes builds that career. Every world he visits is new, but he never has to start his career from the bottom. A writer or a journalist can have the same kind of career Tracy Kidder does, because like consulting, writing is a perfect skill for umbrella career, and umbrella careers are perfect for serial specialists. So, it's time to question ourselves. Do we have any skills that could turn into umbrella careers? So, all of us are very skillful. All of us are born in a world where we are full of skills, except that many times we know about it, many times we don't. Now that we go through this entire section, let's see if we have any one of those skills and if we are inspired with any one of the formats or any one of the ideas. Have your scanner, date book, and a pen or pencil nearby in case the following list reminds you of a skill you would love to have, which could lead to an umbrella career. Ask your friends and family if they can come up with something you can add onto the list. Here are some of the basic ideas for us to get started. Writer. If we're a writer, we can spend years on one subject. Write our books, move to another. Teacher. We can pick up a field that broadly covers many of the areas you're interested in: sociology, popular culture, economics, comparative literature, and to be paid to study everything in that field that appeals to us. We might also be able to travel to other countries as guest teacher. Historian. Since everything has a history, businesses, dog breeding, families, fashion, you can be hired to write histories of widely different words. Public speaker. Most organizations need speakers on various topics. So you can wear many hats as a public speaker and market yourself in all the fields that interest you. Incidentally, you can record all your speeches and turn them into books or booklets, reports, teleclasses, newsletters, whatever you choose. Troubleshooter. Although that's not a job title, you can take any job and turn it into a troubleshooter position by volunteering to solve problems all through the system. Pick some place that interests you, like a zoo or a main office or the chain of a language school. You will have fun and you'll build a reputation too. Information broker. This is a fancy name for anyone who's asked to find something out for somebody. If you work freelance and your clients are corporations or writers or small businesses or television shows, you can make money and have lots of variety too. Scanner definition of variety. Simply have fun. Fun is the most important ingredient which people like. Few more options are coming up our way. Journalist. This is a writer, of course, but one who moves from between projects faster than Tracy Kidder. If you're a serial specialist who doesn't want to stay in one subject longer than a few months, you might prefer this umbrella career. Researcher, a wide variety of information broker, but you might also work in one company instead of being self-employed and working with many. Librarian, you'll be called on to provide answers to questions. You'll have probably be paid less than many other professionals above, but library work has the potential to become a portable job that allows you to take relevantly long-term positions anywhere in the world. Personal assistant, if you work in a family that has art collections, philanthropies, parties for influential people in many fields. You'll have one group of experiences, and you work for an actor, professional athlete, or the family of a university professor. You'll have a wide variety of very different experiences. Foundation officer. If you have the job of reviewing grant requests in a large philanthropy, you'll get to know about hundreds of widely different programs every year while keeping this one job title. Business owner, such as owner of an adult education school who brings in teachers or offers evening classes in various subjects under the sun, or the owner of a company that reviews and advises public television stations which documentaries to put on air. Consultant, which means that you leave behind all the parts of your present career that bore you and help other businesses with the parts you find most interesting. Documentary filmmaker. You can start with this as a hobby, but if you have a flair for it, your hobby can turn into a profession that is endlessly changing and new. You don't always have to compete in the small field that airs documentaries on television. If you're imaginative, you'll find yourself with as many opportunities to get paid for documentaries as a historian at the top of this list. So, how do we scanners turn our present professions into an umbrella job? So, we may be into professions we may not be. How do we do this? Let's understand. I once met a woman who had a business degree and a high paying job, but was so bored with the repetitive work in the corporate world that she decided to quit and travel the world until her savings were gone. After that, she didn't know what she'd do. She had already given notice when a friend told her of an opening with a documentary production house. They needed a permanent employee to handle their budget department, and the employee had to be free to travel overseas. This was 6 years ago. Here's what she told me. The process of producing documentaries is amazing. I never thought I'd stick in one career for so long. But each subject is like getting a college degree in a totally different subject, and your parents don't get mad at you for changing my majors. I've been immersed in science, sports, politics, cultures, nature, and I've met the most remarkable people you can think of. I've become an avid reader of history and an amateur photographer too. I spent almost a year in Africa and Egypt, and it was incredible. Now, this entire thing on top is so interesting for people who are scanners. How much the lady has learned, how much she's moved on. Now, if you're not a writer, but you wish you could create a book for each of your serial specialities, you can gather the information and the insights and hire someone else to write a book for you. There are lots of writers looking for specialists to work with. Some call themselves ghostwriters. You can actually find their ads in writer magazines. On the other hand, if you love writing but you can't or don't want to give up your present lifestyle to move on to a different world, you can become one of those writers yourself. Harry thought that was an intriguing idea. I keep wanting people to know about the different worlds of work from the inside. What I've learned is so fascinating. Not anything like you'd ever expect. He'd had considered being a speaker, but he was a teacher. We're all hams, he smiled. We love those captive audiences. I think every teacher can be a speaker. So maybe hearing from Harry one of these days. Now, obviously, if we have a huge wide interest of so many things that we want to do, we may be even having a never-ending resume. So let's look around it. Many scanners complain that they have too many things in their resumes and it makes them look bad to an employer. But if you keep a private copy of your never-ending resume updated with every skill you require, you have a very useful tool. You won't send it to a potential employer, but at least not the whole thing. But you'll have your comprehensive list of skills and experiences in front of you at all times, and you can pick and choose what you like from it. But the reason I suggest keeping one list with all experiences is that this list will make you very aware of everything that can be translated into an umbrella career. You may find that you're very good with people in some locations where you don't speak their language, or that people like your cooking more than you expected to, that you expect more than that, anything that they like your cooking, or that you're a good driver, whatever you find, add to the list. As you go through each serial specialty, pay attention. You might find niches and create career in places no one ever thought of. Some people actually never have a job when they're thinking, when I leave, could I come back as a consultant? Doing what? As a serial specialist, you'd accumulate knowledge in more fields every year. And you can use the skills and experiences from each of them to create a wide variety of consulting services. one in radio and another for public art installations, one for pediatricians and another for veterinarians. I predict you'll have a glorious future. So now let's look at the next page and let's see how serial specialists do everything they love. So Rahul, sir, can we turn the page if you don't mind? Yes. So life design model for serial specialist. Now we talked about the Walter Mitty model, where we spoke about how he was very interested in doing everything, and this was how he liked to do. He wanted to be this, that, and that's what he ultimately became. Careers for serial specialists. Umbrella careers, which we talked about these options like writer, teacher, historian, public speaker, troubleshooter, information broker, journalist, researcher, librarian, personal assistant, foundation officer, your own business, consultant you could be, business skills you could have. From your scanner toolkit, you need to have your scanner day notebook and the never ending resume, the web email account, letters from the field. Now, the greatest tool for sales specialists is a mail, which is one. The one thing we should start doing today is to keep our logs and photos of our experiences, even before you're sure what you can use them for. When you find a career, you can use them all, you'll want them at hand. So some people start a blog, okay? You can probably, it's your personal blog, you want to share it public, you can. Just like what is your day like, what are you doing and what are you liking to do? And you can just keep adding information on that. Alternatively, create yourself a log and photos, maybe like a journal, or maybe like an album. But if you're like me, if you get lazy about writing, let me suggest something that will make you keep records of experience in a painless way. Write letters to your friends from wherever you are. For this, I recommend a good scanner tool, a web email account. This is one of the few tools for scanners that is best done via computer on the internet. If you have a web email service rather than the one you can open on your home computer, you can write letters to your friends or yourself from any internet-enabled computer in the world. Taking notes can be tedious, but writing about your adventures to a responsible friend might be the best conceivable way to record what you've done. Why? Because when you write a letter, you're not thinking of your English teacher, you're thinking of your reader. Almost everyone is a good writer in a letter. The language is immediate and unself-conscious, and you can always have the patience to include the details. Now, if you can find a friend who's responsive and appreciative, even better. One who's curious and asks lots of questions, you can almost painlessly gather together all the records you'll ever need. And one of these days, you'll find that umbrella skill and you'll be very glad. And you've got those letters from the field, lively, detailed records of your travels. There are some of the ways to the serial specialist you long to be and still look out of the world like a person with one profession and a steady salary. I bet you'll soon think of even more. So all these days we've been looking at what scanners are, which kind of scanners we could be, what is our advantage, what kind of ideas we've got. So I got two emails yesterday that I was reading that, I am this kind of a scanner, I'm super sure. And I know this is what I'm looking into. And thank you, I've never been a professional. So maybe she'll want to share this. Both of them will want to share your own reflections if they're comfortable. The idea to read this is that we are thinking beyond the box. We never firstly knew what a scanner. And now that we know, we're slowly dwindling on upon it, and maybe it helps us work. Tomorrow is yet another day where we'll talk about serial scanners, and these have different focuses completely. They don't choose the subjects so we can visit different environments. She chooses them because she wants to master them. So a serial master is like that, who always wants to specialize and not just wants to leave something in a lurch. And that's about tomorrow. Today we're going to move on to a Surya Namaskar, and then we'll take more time in reading letting go, because letting go is important. And आजकल हम letting go में बात कर रहे हैं fear की. So we'll talk about fear, which is very, very important, and क्यों हमें होता है वो हमने कल discuss किया, and we'll take a learning forward. So now without further ado, let's start our yoga.
The Surya Namaskar with mantras. Om Mitraye Namaha. Om Ravaye Namaha. Om Suryaye Namaha. Om Bhanave Namaha. Om Khagaye Namaha. Om Pushne Namaha. Om Hiranyagarbhaya Namaha. Om Marichaya Namaha. Om Adityaya Namaha. Om Savitre Namaha. Om Arkaya Namaha. Om Bhaskaraya Namaha. Salutations to the universal friend. Salutations to the resplendent sun. Salutations to the energy that induces activity within us. Salutations to the one who illumines. Salutations to the sun moving across the sky. Salutations to the giver of strength. Salutations to the golden cosmic self. Salutations to the Lord of the dawn. Salutations to the son of Aditi, the cosmic mother. Salutations to the benevolent mother. Salutations to the energy that we praise, and to the one who guides us to salvation. The sun salutation now with the names of the postures, both in Sanskrit and English. Pranamasan, Hastuthanasan, Padhahastasan, left leg back, Ashvasanchalanasan, Parvatasan, and hold this position. And now slowly progressing into the deeper version of Parvatasan, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Ashtang Namaskar, Bhujangasana, Parvatasana. Left forward, Ashvasanchalanasan, Padahastasana, Hastuthanasan, Pranamasan. On the right side, prayer position, raised arms pose, hand to feet pose, right leg back, equestrian pose, mountain pose, hold mountain pose, and slowly moving into the deeper version of mountain, the downward facing dog. Salute with 8 limbs, cobra, press back to mountain, right forward equestrian pose, hand to feet pose, raised arms position, prayer pose. One round of the sun salutation with awareness on the breathing. So exhaling our hands to the chest, pranam. Inhaling as we bend back. We exhale as we fold forward. Left leg back, inhale as we're arching back. Exhale into the forward. Hold the breath for knees, chest, chin. Inhale as we arch back. Exhale into the forward. Left leg forward, inhale. This is a back bend. Exhale whenever we bend forward. Inhale as we bend back. Exhale, hands to the chest. And on the right, deep breathing. Exhale. A deep inhale. A long exhale. Right leg back with an inhale. And exhale. Hold the breath. Inhale and exhale. Right leg forward with a deep inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale.
Wonderful. So yesterday we were talking about fear. All of us spoke about why fear, and we also realized that most of our fear is because of the conditioning of people around us, people's opinions about us. Ye nahi hoga, so we have fear. That is the problem why all of us are really, really fearing. And yesterday we even talked about the fact that it takes a lot of. So, sir, we are not on this page, please. Yes, we are on this page. Thank you. No, we are on that page. You're right. Back to that page. So back to that page. Yes. No, again, you changed. Can you please come back on the page which says in the world of conscious? No, you've gone पीछे sir. आगे जाएं आप. Problem is इस book में सब जगह पेज नंबर एक ही आता है. और आगे जाएं. और आगे जाएं. I don't know, where are you heading? Just go one step further, sir. I don't know why that happens. बीच में दो बार this page came and then again it was just changed. Please start from exactly where we stopped. Okay, so until he starts, let me start reading the book. So in this world of consciousness, like goes to like. So that fear attracts fear, just as a corollary is true that love attracts love. This is not the page. This is not the page. Please go further. Yes, that's the page. No, that's fine. So we are on paragraph number 3, page number 96 in the world, 96 on this page, but in your books, it will be in page number 98. In the world of consciousness, like goes to like, so that fear attracts fear, just as a corollary is true that love attracts love. The more fear we hold, the more fearful situations we attract to our life. Each fear requires additional energy to create a protective device until finally all of our energy is drained into extensive defensive measures. The willingness to look at a fear and work with it until we are free of it brings about immediate rewards. So when we are scared of something, we are holding on to that thing and we are डर के मारे में उसको expand करते हैं, उसको energy देते हैं. And the fears come true. ये नहीं हो जाए, पे हम इतना ध्यान देते हैं कि वो हो ही जाता है. So that is, the minute हम छोड़ देते हैं, we let go, हमें results मिलते हैं because it doesn't happen. Each of us has within us a certain reservoir of suppressed and repressed fear. This quantity of fear spills into all areas of our life, colors all of our experience, decreases our joy in life, and reflects itself in the musculature of the face so that to affect our physical appearance, our physical strength, and the condition of health in all of the organs in the body. Sustained and chronic fear gradually suppresses the body's immune system. With kinesiological testing, we can instantly demonstrate that a fearful thought causes a major reduction in muscle power and deranges the energy flow down the body's energy meridians to the body's vital organs. Although we know that this is totally damaging to our relationships, health, and happiness, we still hang on to fear. Now, why is that? कल हमने बहुत clearly बात करी थी that fear is an inherent mechanism in our bodies from the time we became an early man to a man. And this fear is trying to safeguard us, is trying to become like our protection layer. And that's the reason kuch garbad na ho jaye, body is sending you signals that, okay, alert, antenna up. Now we have the unconscious fantasy that fear is keeping us alive. That is because fear is associated with our whole set of survival mechanisms. We had the idea that if we were to let go of fear, our main defense mechanism, we would become vulnerable in some ways. In reality, the truth is just the opposite. Fear is what blinds us to real dangers of life. In fact, fear itself is the biggest danger that the human body faces. It is fear and guilt that bring about dis-ease and failure in every area of our lives. So हमने कल ये भी बात कही थी that early man में we had, अब कौन attack करेगा? When we have gone to attack them, we think we will get attacked. And the same mechanism is so strongly inbuilt that now that none of those people are going to attack us, we are still looking for what can we save ourselves from. And if there's nothing to save us, हम एकदम vulnerable ओपल हो जाएंगे, and that's going to be a problem. The fact is that's a true reality. जब fear आता है and कुछ हो जाता है तो guilt आता है कि ये सोचा, ऐसे किया और देखो ये हो गया. And जब वो आते हैं तो life में we have a lot of blockages. And let's take a deep look more in this world. We could take the same protective actions out of love rather than out of fear. Can we not care for our bodies because we appreciate and value them rather than out of fear of disease and dying? So some people say, हमारी फैमिली में तो जेनेटिक डिसऑर्डर है, वी विल तो डाई एट दिस एज, हमें तो पता है कि हार्ट की प्रॉब्लम है, या ब्लड प्रेशर रन्स इन द फैमिली, or that we have thyroid which is in the family, and this is there, we can't help it. They are preconditioned for it, and that is a problem which is leading them into so many problems. Now, can we not be out of service to others in a life out of love rather than out of fear of losing them? Can we not be polite and courteous to strangers because we care for our fellow human beings rather than because we fear losing their good opinion of us? Can we not do a good job because we care about the quality of a performance rather than being caring about what the bosses will say that you haven't done the work well? Why are we operating out of fear? Why are we looking out of elders? Ki, what if they die? Why can't we just nurture them and just say, okay, let's look after them and let's just show our love? That's it. Our problem is we are operating because of fear of something. लोग क्या कहेंगे, वो क्या कहेगा, ये क्या कहेगा, ऐसा क्या हो जाएगा? Can we not perform our job well because we care about the recipients of our services rather than just the fear of losing our jobs or pursuing our own ambition? Can we not accomplish more by cooperation rather than by fearful competition? Can we not drive carefully because we have a high regard for ourselves and care for our welfare and those who love us rather than because we fear an accident? On a spiritual level, isn't it more effective if, out of compassion and identification with our fellow human beings, we care for them rather than trying to love them out of fear of God's punishment if we don't? So, do you see the pattern? Most of us are fearful for a result, and that is making us do stuff. If we look at the other way, what if love becomes the reason why we're doing something? It's a shift of thought, but it'll take a while. Even if you say, no, I am doing it for love, fine, you're saying so. Deep जाके देखो, कहीं ना कहीं डर तो है कि कुछ ना कुछ तो है. Without डर तो 99% चीजें नहीं होती, because that's how the human world is. Those 0.001 or some, I can't even put a percentage, who's enlightened, they operate out of love, and you can make out unconditional love. And they're very simple Suljao people, not stuck in anything in life. They are they're different type of people. And there are many householders also who are like that. It's not like they're free from householding, but just that it's all very easy for them. Because they're operating from love now, they've done a paradigm change, a shift in their perspective. Now let's talk about guilt. One particular form of fear is that we call guilt. Guilt is always associated with feeling of wrongness and potential punishment, either real or in fantasy. And I've told you this yesterday, and today I'm going to repeat myself. Mind plays tricks. It does not know what is real or fantasy. It knows the feelings, emotions that go upper niche. And that makes it feel it's real fantasy. So if you're in a movie theater and some leopard is coming attacking at you, and it's a 3D movie, and you think, oh my god, and you're fearful that you go piche, the mind doesn't know whether you're in a real life situation with a tiger pouncing on you, or it's in a movie. And that's what the reaction will be. So let's understand whether it's a fantasy world or whether it's a real world. If punishment is not forthcoming in the external world, it expresses itself as self-punishment or an emotional level. मैंने ये wrong किया इसलिए मुझे punishment मिलनी चाहिए. हम realize करते भी नहीं हैं, अपने आप को punishment देते हैं. Guilt accompanies all of the negative emotions, and thus, where there is fear, there is guilt. If you think a guilty thought and have somebody test your muscle strength, you will see that the muscle instantly goes weak. Your cerebral hemisphere has become desynchronized, and all of your energy meridians are thrown out of balance. Nature, therefore, says that guilt is destructive. सबसे बड़ी problem है guilt. Fear is still acceptable. It's not very acceptable, but guilt is the worst. Why? If guilt is so destructive, then why are there so many paeans of praise allotted to it? Why do so-called experts view guilt as beneficial? For example, a psychiatrist wrote a magazine article in praise of guilt, declaring guilt is good for you. He then qualified the statement with appropriate guilt. Let's look at what guilt is really all about and see if we agree or not. So let's go with a very open mind and see what this chapter unfolds, whether we resonate with this or not. Look, everything the author writes, you don't have to resonate with it, but it gives you retrospection, it gives you reflection into the world, and gives you time to reflect on it. Let's go for it. Now, when you cross a street, you look both ways to see if a car is coming. How did this come about? When you were a child, you were told that it was bad to cross the street. Thus, we can see that guilt is really a substitute for a sense of reality in a mind that is underdeveloped, such as that of a child. It is a learning behavior which is purposely pragmatic to prevent further error or the repetition of a mistake. तो पेरेंट्स ने बोला था या किसी ने बोला था सड़क क्रॉस करते दोनों तरफ देखो डर because whatever 99% of guilt has nothing whatsoever to do with reality. In fact, the most pious, meek, and harmless individuals are often riddled with guilt. Guilt is really self condemnation and self invalidation of our worth and value as a human being. Guilt is as prevalent as fear, and we feel guilty no matter what we are doing. A part of our mind says that we really ought to be doing something else, or whatever we are actually doing in the moment, we ought to be doing better. We should be getting a better golf score. We should be creating a book instead of watching television. We should make love better, cook better, run faster, grow taller, be stronger, be smarter, be more educated. In between the fear of living and the fear of dying is the guilt of the moment. We seek to escape it by remaining unaware of it through suppression, repression, projecting it onto others, and escapism. Remaining unconscious of guilt, which is repression, however, does not resolve it or solve it. The guilt re-emerges in the form of self-punishment and through accidents, misfortunes, loss of jobs, relationships, physical diseases, sickness, tiredness, exhaustion, and the multiple ways the ingenious mind figures of how to bring about the loss of pleasure, joy, and aliveness. Guilt represents death just as love represents life. Guilt is part of the smaller self and underlies our willingness to believe negative things about ourselves. The happiness and joy of the day is instantly destroyed by one negative remark from a family member, a friend, or a neighbor. Physical disease is unlikely to exist without guilt, and guilt is a denial of our inner intrinsic innocence. Why do we buy into so much garbage? इतना ज़्यादा हम garbage को क्यों अपने अंदर clutter करते हैं? Some person says something and it throws us back. We can become smarter ना कि लोग can say whatever, मुझे affect नहीं होता है. मुझे अपना सत्य पता है. I know my truth. Is it not because of our very innocence? Is it not because as we grew up, we trusted that whatever others were telling was the truth? And even currently, do we still trust what others are telling us is the truth? Is it not so that we have brought into 10,000 lies and are willing to buy another 10,000 out of naivety of our own inner innocence? Is not the inner innocence the very reason for our exploitability? In fact, when we look deep within ourselves, it is not because of our very innocence, but because we believe ourselves to be guilty. It is because of our own inner innocence that we have brought into all the negativity of the world and allowed it to kill our aliveness, destroy our awareness of who we really are, and tell us the pathetic little smallness for which we were settled. Is not ours the innocence of the newborn that cannot defend itself and with no capacity for discernment, could only allow itself to be programmed like a computer? हम सब कठपुतलियां बने हुए हैं, जो लोग बोलते हैं, जो न जाते हैं, हम नाच लेते हैं, just because हम अपने लिए बहुत कम stand ले पाते हैं. मैं ये नहीं बोल रही हम सब ऐसे हैं. A lot of us take stands, but 90% of us are very vulnerable, very innocent, very exploitable, and people are just out telling stuff which they have been conditioned about. It becomes a vicious circle of just guilt and fear, guilt and fear. Now, to see this means to become conscious. अगर हमने आज ये चैप्टर पढ़ा है तो और कल हमने कल ढंग से किया था तो हमने पूरे दिन में देखा हो कि हमें कहाँ पर फियर हो रहा है. We hear of consciousness raising programs, and even if you take a stand for yourself, Meenakshi, it is out of fear that somebody will subject me to humiliation or think embarrassment, and I will take a stand. वो भी fear की वजह से होता है. That's what I'm trying to say. If you look deep down, हर चीज fear and guilt की वजह से, हर चीज. नहीं तो अगर हम इस दुनिया में परफेक्ट दुनिया में होते, कोई किसी कुछ बोलता नहीं, एवरीवन विल लिव देयर लाइफ एंड डन एग्जैक्टली व्हाट दे वांट. ना ना ना, अभी आप देखो छोटे बच्चों को कितना हम ना बोलते हैं, शुरू से कंडीशनिंग कर दी है फियर की, ये करोगे तो रॉन्ग हो जाएगा, गिर जाओगे, ऐसा नहीं करोगे तो वैसा करोगे, ये नहीं होगा. पनिशमेंट ड्रिवन सोसाइटी है, सो हम अपने आप को पनिश करते हैं. और बीमारियां जब आती हैं, देयर आर पनिशमेंट व्हिच वी इन्फ्लिक्ट ऑन आवरसेल्व्स. We hear of consciousness raising programs and weekend seminars to expand our consciousness. What does this mean? To get more new complicated formulas, to get programmed with somebody else's idea of mystical truth. Most of the consciousness programs boil down to the essential point: become aware of what we are buying into, what we are accepting daily. Let's look at what we have already been programmed with and begin to question it, disassemble it, and let it go. Let's wake up and free ourselves from being exploited and enslaved by the negative programming of the world. We will see it for what it is, which is an attempt by others to control us, exploit us, extract their money, our services, our energy, our loyalty, and capture our mind. The mechanisms whereby this moves from were so beautifully exemplified in the movie Tron, in which every function of master control was to enslave by progressive programming. And let me tell you, all bad news is all of us are slaves, slaves to people's conditioning of us. We have been programmed into that. We are actually slaves. We are not free. We're not independent because we're all operating out of fear. And when something fearful happens, then we go on a guilt trip. When we see the truths of how programming happens, we will see that we are so pure and the blank and unlike a blank computer. We are the innocent space in which the programming is occurring. When we look at all of this, we're going to get angry. Anger is better than resignation, apathy, depression, and grief. It means to take charge of a mind instead of handling it to the television set, the television, the newspaper, the magazine, the neighbors, conversation subway, the chance remarks of waitress, the garbage in and garbage out. What went into a memory banks was garbage. And when we see this, we have much less fear. We will enjoy starting to let feelings come up, seeing them for what they are, clearing out the garbage and letting it all go. जब गुस्सा आता है ना, it's in a way good. पर जब गुस्सा आता है, तब वही जो ये 5 या 10 वाला काउंट बैकवर्ड करके अपने आप सवाल करना कि मुझे किस बात पे गुस्सा आ रहा है, क्यों मैंने उस इंसान को परमिशन दी मेरे ऑरा में अटैक करने की, मुझे गुस्सा लाने के लिए. And that is when we question, हम clearly देख पाते कि ये सब कचरा है, and let's just हटाओ it. So गुस्सा in a way is good. It's at least a reaction. And then you respond to it. You don't react to it, but you respond to it. And that is not tough. Now, once we have introspected within us, we've asked our questions, we've looked deep within us, and we found that innate inner innocence, we will stop hating ourselves. We will start condemning ourselves and stop buying into the condemnation of others and their subtle attempts to invalidate our worth as human beings. All of us are brilliant. But abhi dekho, har jagah jaate ho na, aap khud ko bhi dekh lo. You want to show your gyan to others. We are, we want to tell the other person, oh, you're going wrong here, ye kar lo, better rahega. Fine, ye kar lo, better rahega, theek hai, but uske liye tarika hai bolne ka कि in your situation मेरे साथ भी आया था, I tried this, it worked wonders for me. इस मामले में सेम चीज हो रही है, but the thing is बहुत फर्क पड़ रहा है. दूसरे इंसान को आप अनवर्दी नहीं बना रहे हो, आप उनको सजेस्ट नहीं कर रहे हो, आप उनको वो नहीं कर रहे हो, आप उनको अपना शेयरिंग कर रहे हो. It's time to re-own our own power and stop giving it away to every passing scanner or scammer who jiggles out fears and shakes loose money out of our pocketbook or enslaves us with their cause, living off our energy. It's easy to get away from all the fear because we have the power of choice now. We fear that the inner voyage of discovery will lead us into some dreadful, awful truth. In its programming of our mind, this is one of the barriers the world has set up to prevent us from finding out the real truth. There is one thing the world does not want us to find out: the truth about ourselves. Why? Because then we become free. We're no longer controlled, no longer manipulated, no longer exploited, no longer drained, no longer enslaved, no longer imprisoned, vilified, or disempowered. Therefore, the inner voyage of discovery is cloaked over with an aura of mystery and foreboding. आप देख लो how human beings behave. When a girl is born, when she's about to get marriageable, she has been told to look after her husband, to look after in-laws, to adjust. When the boy is married, oh, he's also been told to adjust, to look after her, to look into it. All of us are being told, and it's not wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong, but somewhere deep down we become controllers. Usko aisa karna chahiye, usko aisa karna chahiye. We like to manipulate, and then we feel like a silent sense of glory. Oh, मैंने तो manipulate कर लिया. Oh, amazing. I've enslaved the person. And uska मैंने तो हटा दिया. You know, that the ego comes, small self comes. Now, what is the real truth about this voyage? जो हमारा inner truth है, what is the real truth? The real truth is that as we go within and discard one illusion after another, one falsehood after another, one negative programming after another, we become lighter and lighter and lighter. The awareness of the presence of love becomes stronger and stronger. We feel lighter and lighter. Life becomes progressively more effortless. पता है life effortless होनी चाहिए, but हम लोग कितना effort डालते हैं उसमें हर चीज में. It should be like just flowing. Every great teacher since the beginning of time has said to look within and find the truth. But the truth of what we really are will set us free. If what is to be found within ourselves was something to feel guilty about, something that is rotten, evil, and negative, then all the world's great teachers would not advise us to look there. On the contrary, they would tell us to avoid it at all costs. We will discover that all of the things the world calls evil are right on the surface, they're right on the top, as a superficial outer thin layer. Beneath these errors is mistakenness. We are not rotten, only ignorant. हमें अपनी सुपर पावर के बारे में पता ही नहीं है. हमें पता है हमें अंदर जाके ढूंढना है, आंसर्स अपने आप से करने हैं, अपने आप ही आंसर्स मिलेंगे. हमें पता है, फिर भी हम कम करते हैं. एटलीस्ट नाउ अवेयरनेस आ रही है, थोड़ा सा फर्क पड़ेगा. As the quantity of guilty fear and the energy accompanying it are relinquished, we will notice that physical diseases and symptoms begin to disappear. The capacity to love ourselves in the form of increased self-esteem returns. And with it comes the capacity to love others. Being free, अब आपने पढ़ा, पहले खुद के लिए लव आता है, दूसरों के लिए लव आता है. हम क्या करते हैं, दूसरों को लव दे रहे होते हैं, अपने आप को देते नहीं है. उस प्रोसेस में अपने लिए भी फेवर नहीं किया, दूसरे के लिए भी नहीं किया, कुछ आधा अधूरा काम हो गया. Now, the minute you're free from guilt, what happens? Your life energy is renewed. Dramatic witness लोग करेंगे, अरे क्या हो गया यार, amazing, क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है, what are you doing? The sudden freedom from guilt through the mechanism of forgiveness is responsible for thousands of recoveries from serious and advanced diseases. तब हम forgive करने लग जाते हैं, सब ठीक है यार, it's okay. I mean, I can forgive. It's not a big deal. When we start forgiving, the world opens up. Healing हो जाती है, हमारी अंदर से भी, सब जगह से भी. Whether or not we agree with the religious conceptual is immaterial. Religion में agree करें नहीं करें doesn't matter. Forgive करें, spiritual बने, and that is the most important. What is important to notice is that elevation of guilt is accompanied by resurgence of energy, well-being, and physical health. So elevate उसको हटाना है अपने को, completely अपनी life से हटा देना, guilt को भी, fear को भी, and इतना मुश्किल नहीं है. We will come around to it gradually, but at least let's get the conditioning part clear. Now, when it comes to healing ourselves, increasing our own emotional health, it pays to be paranoid. यहाँ पर it's important, अगर आप paranoid हैं कि आपको emotional health, mental health better करनी है, heal करना है, it's okay to be focused right now. This way, we'll become more aware of the guilt mongers in our life and their deleterious influences. We can ask ourselves, would we not achieve the same motivation or behavior out of love rather than out of fear and guilt? Is guilt the only reason we don't stab our neighbor? Why couldn't it be that we would refuse to stab our neighbor because we love and care for him as a fellow human being who's intrinsically innocent and who's struggling to grow? But they make mistakes along the way just as we do ourselves, and we are done with it. So why shouldn't they be done with it? Why should we would not following religious teachings, whatever they are, be more effective if done out of love and appreciation rather than out of guilt and fear? पंडित जी बोलते हैं ये नहीं करोगे तो ये हो जाएगा, मौलवी जी बोलते हैं ऐसा नहीं करोगे तो ऐसा हो जाएगा. अभी religions are getting fear in you, and we are being programmed with fear. We are looking in a world of fear. So can't we ask ourselves, What do we really need guilt for anyway? What possible service do we get out of it? Are we so miserably stupid that we behave out of that for out of guilt? Are we so unaware, so unconscious? Cannot consideration for the feelings of others replace guilt as a motivation for appropriate human behavior? Very important for us to understand that all of us are in this human behavior and we need to get out of this negative bubble. जो negative है ना, it just brings us down, our energy down. Let's go further. Next page. As we examine these issues and look at their social origins, we see that the Middle Ages are far from over. The Inquisition was merely taken on newer and subtler forms of cruelty. We have unwittingly brought into the system of negativity that is currently running the planet. To make wrong and to make guilty is really a form of cruelty, is it not? We have allowed others to program us with methods of self-torture, and we can see that we have retaliated by inviting others to torture themselves in return. We have allowed ourselves to be manipulated by guilt, and we turn it around and use the same mechanism of guilt to exploit and control others. जो हमने सीखा है वही तो हम सिखाएंगे, जो हमने प्रैक्टिस किया वही तो हम प्रैक्टिस करेंगे आगे. हमने सीखा गिल्ट होना तो हम आगे भी गिल्ट पास करते हैं. हमने सीखा फियर से, हम आगे भी पास करते हैं फियर. हमने देखा हम अपने आप को टॉर्चर कर रहे हैं, हम शायद उनको भी यही सिखाते हैं. कॉन्शियसली सबकॉन्शियसली हम कर रहे हैं. The degree to which we have not allowed ourselves to experience the reality of our true self is represented by resentment towards those who have actually done so. जब आप किसी को देखते हैं जो बहुत स्टेबल है, बहुत वो है, अरे आप उनको क्या बोलते हैं, ये इनकंसिडरेट है, सेल्फ सेंटर्ड है, अरे अपनी दुनिया में रहता है, अरे इसको तो नहीं, क्योंकि वो इंसान अपना सत्य पहचान चुका है, ही इज हैप्पी इन हिज ओन वर्ल्ड. अब वो भी टॉलरेट नहीं होता, घर में ये नहीं कर रहा है, वो नहीं कर रहा, अरे देखो हम तो इतना सारा काम कर रहे हैं. आप रिजेंटमेंट करने लग जाते हो. आपको जहाँ वो है वो एक्चुअली पसंद नहीं आ रहा, आपको वहां जाना है तो आप कुछ चीजें बोलते हो. We resent the aliveness in the areas in which we feel disabled. The sobering truth is represented by a story of a man who walks along the beach and comes upon a fisherman with a pail full of crabs. He says to the fisherman, "You'd better put a cover on that pail or the crabs will get out." "Eh, well, no," said the old fisherman. "There is no need for that. You see, as one crab crawls up the side of the pail to get out, the other crabs reach up and grabs him down and pulls him back downwards. There's no need for a cover." इंसान भी तो ये करते हैं, कोई ऊपर जा रहा है तो ये तो नहीं, उसको पुश करने की जगह उसको नीचे खींच लेते हैं. Very few people push. Yes, there are many people who have the back of other people, which is absolutely beautiful. उनकी जीत में उनको लगता है हमारी जीत है, which is so beautiful. But crab का typical example, that's what the fisherman told them. Now, as we keep letting go, getting lighter, and becoming freer, we will unfortunately see the nature of the world is that pail of crabs. And then the full extent of its negativity becomes apparent. When we become totally aware of the bill of goods that we have been sold, it is very likely that we will feel anger and a strong desire to become liberated from the constraints of negativity. और अगर ये desire आ रही है negativity के लिए, तो खत्म करने के लिए, तो welcome. आपको एटलीस्ट रियलाइज हो गया, आप अवेयर हो गए हो, दिस इज व्हाट इट इज. Desire is a very, very strong feeling, and we'll talk about that today itself. Chapter 7, desire. The emotion may range from a mild wanting to an obsessive driven craving for something or someone. That's what desire is. ना मुझे ये चीज चाहिए. And it's expressed as greed. हो सकता है कि ज्यादा चाहिए तो greed हो गया. Obsession चाहिए ही चाहिए तो obsession हो गया. Hunger के लिए desire है, या your envy, या your jealousy है, clinging है, hoarding है, ruthlessness, fixation, frenzy, exaggeration, over ambition, selfishness, lust, possessiveness, control, glamorization, instability, and accusativeness, never satisfied, never enough, must have. The underlying quality of this emotion is its drivenness. We are driven for desire. When we are at the effect of desire, we are no longer free. We are controlled by it. We are run by it. We are enslaved by it. We are led about by the nose by it. Here again, the essential point of freedom is whether we have chosen consciously to fulfill a certain want or whether we are just blindly run by unconscious programs and belief systems. यहाँ फर्क आता है desire versus intention का. Intention could simply be something that you want, which you're aware of, which is आपका एक अच्छा intention, and desires चाहिए ही चाहिए. दोनों में ये अंतर है. एंड जब डिजायर आता है वो क्यों आता है? बिकॉज अनकॉन्शियस प्रोग्राम्स एंड बिलीफ सिस्टम्स हमें गाइड करते हैं. इंटेंशन क्यों आती है? जब नया बिलीफ सिस्टम आता है या उसको बनाने के लिए आप इंटेंशन करते हो कि मुझे ये सीखना है तो मैं करना चाहता हूँ, दैट्स माय इंटेंशन. नाउ डिजायर is also an obstacle. Let's understand it. There's often a lack of understanding of the function of wanting and desire. So all of us want, right? And that's okay to want, right? हम सब भी जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन चैप्टर में आए हैं, लाइफ में आए हैं, because we have some dreams and we have desires. But the main illusion is seen in the statement. The only way that I'll get what I want is by desiring it. If I let go of my desire, then I won't get what I want. Actually, the opposite true. And हमने opposite true देखा है ना? जब हम फुल मून पे अपनी डिजायर को, अपने ड्रीम को सरेंडर कर देते हैं, तो क्या वो मिल जाता है हमें? Many of you have written to me कि जब हमने लेट गो किया, पता नहीं कैसे मैजिकली वो मिल गया. Desire, especially strong desire, that is cravingness, frequently blocks our getting what we want. So we're on the next page. Why is this so? Actually, the way something comes into our life is because we have chosen it. It was a result of our intention, or if we made a decision for it. It has come into our life in spite of desire. Do you read the word in spite of desire? You did not like it. Spite करते थे आप. फिर भी in spite of that also you've got it. Why? कहीं ना कहीं knowingly, unknowingly आपने desire किया था उसको. The desiring was actually the obstacle to its achievement or acquisition. This is because desire literally means I do not have. In other words, if we say that we desire something, we are saying it isn't ours. यूनिवर्स क्या चीज देता है हमको? लॉ ऑफ अट्रैक्शन क्या बोलता है? जिससे अपनापन है, जो आपको लगता है कि दैट्स व्हाई हम बोलते हैं फ्यूचर में जाकर हम फील करें कि वाओ आई हैव गॉट इट, आई एम एंजॉयिंग इट. जब मेरा है तो मुझे मिलेगा ही ना. अगर मैं डिजायर कर रहा हूँ कि अरे मुझे चाहिए, इसका मतलब मेरा नहीं है, तभी मैं मांग रहा हूँ, राइट? सो हमें वननेस फील करवानी है अपने आप को. When we say this isn't ours, we put a psychic distance between ourselves and what we want. This distance becomes an obstacle that consumes energy. The impossible becomes possible as soon as we are totally surrendered. This is because wanting blocks receiving it and results in a fear of not getting it. The energy of desire is, in a sense, a denial that what we want is ours for the asking. Now, it's got a different nazariya, different perspective. This is a different way of looking at achieving goals than the ones we are used to from programming of our world. We are used to picturing ambition, success as being associated with hard work and the classical Protestant ethic virtues. These include self-sacrifice, asceticism, great expenditure of effort and endeavor, keeping a nose to the grindstone, tightening our belt, buckling down, and grimness of hard work. When you look at this picture, it sounds arduous, doesn't it? Well, it does. It involves struggle. Struggle results from blocks that we have put in our own way because of desire. आधी बार लोग के दिमाग में है उसको अचीव करने के लिए अरे बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, कमर कसनी पड़ती है, पैसे पेट पे नहीं उगते और बहुत काम करना पड़ता है. एंड वो एक ब्लॉकेज बन जाता है बिकॉज वो आप नहीं करना चाहते हो. आपको सक्सेस चाहिए, पर उसके पीछे जो ये पूरा शरारत बनाया हुआ कि ये करना पड़ता है, आपको इसके थ्रू नहीं गुजरना, तो आप इसमें अचीव ही नहीं कर पाते. बट अगर आपने बोला कि तो मुझे मिलेगा ही मिलेगा, कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है, तो ये जल्दी मेरे पास आ जाएगा बिकॉज मुझे मिलेगा ही मिलेगा, या मेरे पास है ही है, मैं तो उसको मैनिफेस्ट कर रहा हूँ, देख रहा हूँ यार मेरा तो है ही, व्हाट्स अ बिग डील. अरे बहुत मुश्किल है करना, मैनिफेस्ट तो करना बड़ा मुश्किल है. तथास्तु, जो एनर्जी देंगे वो एनर्जी मिलेगी. नाउ tomorrow we will be comparing the arduous lower consciousness on how to achieve goals and how to go about it. Today we'll close at this particular juncture, but please take back home and reflect on your guilt. Please look at the fear that you have of society, and please have a clear difference of seeing what is it that you desire. And are you really desiring it for the world, or are you doing it for yourself? एक डिजायर हम करते हैं वर्ल्ड के लिए कि लोग बोलेंगे यार इतना अच्छा काम कर रहा है यार, ये तो वी लुक अप टू हिम एंड ये वो। एक होता है मुझे करना है, बस मुझे फ्री लगता है, मुझे नाम वाम नहीं चाहिए अपना, पर मुझे बस करना है बिकॉज मुझे कहीं ना कहीं उसमें अपना एक कंट्रीब्यूट करना है। इट डजेंट मैटर मेरा नाम है कि नहीं। और अगर लगता है कि लोग बोलेंगे कितना अच्छा कर रहा है, कर रही है, तो इसका मतलब एक मेरा वो ईगो वाला चीज आ रहा है, मेरा लोअर सेल्फ एक्टिवेट हो रहा है। सो दैट्स व्हाट वी आर सपोज्ड टू लुक एट। Thank you, Rahul sir, for showcasing Letting Go this morning. And it's a very deep book which will keep opening layers for all of us. I do not know how many of you feel challenged when you read this book. I feel every time I read this book, there's a nazariya khul ke aata hai ki, oh yeah, this is what it is, and let me look at it. So many new layers open up and makes us realize of what we are programmed and as conditioned. So for me, this book is really, really, it opens, and that's why I thought it was one of the most important books, because when you let go, magics happen. When you let go, whatever you dream about, it starts happening. So I don't know how many of you have witnessed this already in this journey of this book. Are you finding a shift in your thinking, or are you, जो inherent truth है, profound truth है, वो आपके सामने आ रहा है क्या? Shivani says, letting go makes me face a lot of real truth. For me also, it's wonderful. I'm glad you're liking it because this book is very beautiful, very deep, and it'll challenge us from who we are right now. And the minute we start challenging and we start realizing, it's so beautiful. And thank you, Richa, for applying it every day. Because when we apply, we move ahead. Yes, Richa, thank you. It makes you move ahead. I feel the same about this book. Now, this is again a very beautiful chapter that today I'm going to read from this very, very amazing book, The Art of Creative Thinking by Judkins. This is very important again. Contradict yourself more often. So if you look at this image in front of you, there's a man looking at the light and there's a man looking at the dark. एक इंसान का दो पर्सपेक्टिव दिख रहे. It's not even looking like it's the same man because the way the lights have captured it. One is, so again, contradict yourself more often. One is fruitful only at the cost of being rich in contradictions, said Friedrich Nietzsche. Research into creative thinkers has revealed that they have personalities full of contradictions. Eminent psychologists Mihaly has discovered the creative people contain contradictory extremes. Instead of being an individual, each of them is a multitude. The English painter Francis Bacon was a fascinating example of how conflicting personality traits are essential to producing great art. Bacon was a giant of 20th century art who captured the anxieties and frantic activities and energy of the century with brutality and tenderness. एक जगह brutal भी था तो tender भी था. Anxiety कर रहा था तो frantic energy भी captivate कर रहा था. His violent paintings are revered and hated in equal measure. Some people hate them, some people love them. Anyways, you can't please them all. Who you have to please is yourself. In many ways, Bacon's paintings are indecisive. Their portraits, but the people in them are often unrecognizable. They lurch from abstract areas to figurative passages. They're often titled studies because Bacon was unable to decide whether or not they were finished. Psychologists use extroversion and introversion as the main stable personality traits, as the most stable personality trait with which to measure people. They can't do this with creative individuals because they exhibit both traits simultaneously, tending to be both extroverted and introverted. अब लोग बोलेंगे कैसे possible है? या तो मैं extrovert होगा या मैं introvert होगा? क्यों नहीं? आप खुद को देख लो, कई जगह आप एकदम open and receptive रहते हो, कई जगह एकदम close हो जाते हो. Same आप ही हो ना? So you can't say कि मैं extrovert हूँ कि I'm introvert. There's no need to put labels into ourselves. We are humans. That's the best label to put on ourselves. There's no reason to say I'm this, I'm that, because जब हम उसको बोलते हैं हम उसको own कर लेते हैं. So I want us to stop owning stuff. जब हमें let go की दुनिया में जाना है, we have to stop owning labels. अपने आप को label देना बंद करें तो better रहेगा. अपने आप के साथ flow करें तो better रहेगा. So that's what I'm hoping that all of us will reach that stage. Now let's understand. Sometimes center of attention, sometimes observers are on the fringe. Why? Because we are extremists many a times, and we are somewhere in the middle also many a times, because we have all range and gamut of emotions. Again, Bacon exemplified this paradox. He frequented the Colony Room, a private members' drinking club in London Soho that was a magnet for the capital's aspiring creatives. Out with friends, I sometimes found myself in the glorious hellhole. Bacon was usually center stage in the thick of the party, but only after he'd spent countless long solitary hours in his studio. He frequently switched from extroversion to introversion. This is Bacon, the artist. Now, Bacon exhibited another classic contradiction of creative thinkers. He was simultaneously rebellious and conservative. He was deeply immersed in traditions and history of painting. He used oil and canvas, painted many portraits, and placed his paintings in large gold frames. Yet, he challenged traditions. He painted on the wrong, unprimed side of the canvas. He applied the paint with dustbin lids and rags rather than brushes, and his subject matter was shocking and outrageous. It's impossible to be creative without having a deep understanding of an area of culture. But a creative person, which is all of us, have to be rebellious, iconoclastic, to break away from the safety of tradition and make some different discoveries every single day. As Georges Bataille asserted, I believe that truth has only one face. That is a violent contradiction of what you believe in yourself. Francis Bacon was intensely passionate about his work, yet at the same time highly objective about it. He was capable of being totally immersed in a painting for hours and days, and suddenly twitching to being objective and detached to a point where he'd slash and destroy a substandard painting with a knife, without passion. We soon abandon a difficult task, yet without objectively, we can assess our work. Bacon's personality contained numerous contradictions. Among them, he was playful, very disciplined, and yet humble and very arrogant. His admiration of Rembrandt and Van Gogh ensured that he could put down his own contribution modestly in perspective. Yet he would belittle and humiliate painters he considered third rate. His paintings are great art because they reflect the contradictions of his mind. He painted savagely, gashed humans' flesh with sensitivity. A painstakingly worked area of paint was then attacked by a wildly thrown splash. His brushwork was brutal yet tender. Most of his works contain an area of jet black because against pure white. These contrasts create tension and excitement. It's a contradiction within his mind and therefore his paintings that made a great form of art. Although they can be perplexing and frustrating to others, contradictions are an inextricable element of creativity. There is pressure in our culture to make clear what you stand for, to make a decision and stick to it. It's practically a criminal offense to change your mind. The result is rigid thinking. What is true of the individuals is also true of organizations. It is really dangerous if everyone in a company starts thinking in the same way. Michael Dell, chairman of CEO of Dell Incorporation, has said he encourages his employees to attack problems from different perspectives. The creative mind has to contain multiple perspectives simultaneously. Contradicting yourself is a sign that you are brimming with possibilities. Only idiots fail to contradict themselves 3 times a day. So that's something we're learning today, says Friedrich Nietzsche. So it says, idiots are failing to contradict themselves 3 times a day. Because we are not contradicting ourselves, we are no longer geniuses. So it's very important कि आप अपने खुद के concepts को contradict करो कि this is my belief and I am here to change. So once again, thank you for reading this book with me. Now, I do not want to have that heart thought. Let's just simply meditate because I will take the heart thought into meditation if that's okay with everyone. I believe the heart thought sinks in much more when it comes as a form of meditation. So let's go for that. So all of us are back straight, our feet firmly placed on the ground below, our hands in a comfortable resting position on our laps. Let's take a deep breath in and out. In and out. In and out. Life is magical. Life is beautiful. Life teaches us a lesson every single day. All of us are born in this human life with a programming that has been programmed every single day of our life. Even today, even now, all of us are being programmed. Yet many of us are still unable to forgive and forget because we feel we have been wronged by people. Let's reiterate to ourselves, whatever has happened in our life has happened because we needed that. Whether it was an abuse, misbehavior, whether it was a loss, or any kind of knock and shock, any kind of twist and turn, we needed to go through the experience. Whether consciously we know or not, we have to understand that subconsciously it was required for our human journey, for our spiritual evolution. And whatever has happened for a purpose. Let's tell ourselves a very important message. And let's program ourselves with this powerful line. I release all old hurts and forgive myself. When we forgive ourselves, we forgive the world. The most important person to forgive is ourselves. Because we have been critical, analytical of our own deeds. We are so rough on ourselves. It's time to become lighter. It's time to release all that hurts us, whatever that pinches us. We might think we are such nice people. Why do others behave with us this way? It's because we are living in a bubble of becoming people pleasers. The person that we have to please is ourselves. Raise our own consciousness, raise our own vibrations. By now, we all realize when you hold on to the past with bitterness and anger, and you don't allow yourself to experience the present moment, you're wasting today. Holding on to bitterness is wasting yet another precious day of our life. If we hold on to the bitterness and grudges for a long time, it has to first be understood that we need to forgive ourselves. If we are hurting, we first need to forget and forgive ourselves, not the other person. Our healing happens when we forgive ourselves. If we hold on to old hurts, we are punishing ourselves every time, here and now. Often we are the prisoners, and we're sitting in a prison of self-righteous resentment. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Do you want your smaller self ego to be a winner, or do you want your higher self truth to be a winner, love to be a winner? It's now or never. Let's tell ourselves, let's forgive ourselves. We are here to have a new chapter in our life. Let's stop punishing ourselves. We never get revenge. It does not work because what you give out comes back to you. The buck has to stop somewhere. So let's put a stop to all our pain, all our suffering, all our resentment, all self-righteous conditioning, because all of us are in this world for a reason. And the reason is to put our best foot forward. Let's let go of all that's bothering us. Let's move on to the world of light. Let's feel light by letting go. Let's feel light by forgiving. Remember, each one of us is made to forgive, for giving love. Let's give ourselves unconditional love. And so it is. Let's bow our heads in gratitude towards Mother Earth. Let's thank our life at the eye level. Let's thank our universe for having our back. Dear universe, thank you for blessing each one of us with choices of blessings. Thank you, angels, for guiding us, guardians for protecting us. Thank you to all the cosmic energy for ensuring we are in the best of world. Thank you to all the teachers, gurus in this realm or the other, in this dimension or the other, in this plane or another, in this universe or the others. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all your teachings and your blessings. Let's fold our hands and be grateful for everything from heavens to earth. Let's rub our hands together. Bless our face, all the five senses. Bless our neck, the backside of our body, our feet, soles, down to our front end of the body. Bless our heart. Keep your hands on your heart. Dearest heart, today I've learned a lot about anger, a lot about fear, little about grief. And I know we need to become lighter, better, freer. So let's learn to reflect in our life of what all we are fearing. And whatever answers come up, let's each day drop a part of the fear. All of us have multitude of layers inside us. Let's keep releasing one layer by one layer by one layer by one layer and reprogramming ourselves every single day. May all of us sentient beings become absolutely revamped with new energy. As the new year is approaching, may we be love, may we be light. With love, light, healing blessings to everyone. May you be blessed, Pratima ji, Vijay ji, Nikita, Manish, Kamakshi, Manisha, Jitendra ji, Ritu, Richa, Usha ji, Minakshi, Rahul sir, Amrita ma'am, everyone on the virtual session. Lots of love and lots of light. Be blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see each other tomorrow at 5. Lots of love.